Hello everybody, welcome back to That Fiction Life. Today I'm doing my very first reading vlog that isn't dedicated to one book. And I decided to do this on a whim just now because I did a really silly thing and I went to bed at nearly 4 AM last night because I started reading From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I bought it on a whim and I thought it would be a really fun sort of paranormal romance to read throughout the month. But somehow I got halfway through the book. This storyline is absolutely crazy that I couldn't for the life of me stop reading, and when I started to hear the birds sing, I made myself sleep. This is Olivia from the future to tell you what the book is actually about. So this book follows Poppy, who has lived in isolation all of her life, and she is awaiting a sort of trial to see whether the gods deem her worthy to ascend and become the maiden for the people. Set in the past, so it's a medieval type of fantasy. Now this story is really surprising me because upon first starting the book, I was expecting a steamy kind of paranormal romance. I feel like a lot of new adult books either focus on the romance or the fantasy, and there's not really a good in between. Here you have so much history and details around this world. There is a lot of heavy world building at the start, which does feel a little bit like information dumps, but once you get past that and you feel really immersed in the world, the pages just click themselves because I'm reading it as an ebook. This book is blowing my mind with the twists. I am getting really stressed out about what's going on, so I will check back with you later. I'm also reading Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo. I am having the hardest time with it. I found it so predictable at the start. I am pushing through because I really want to get to Six of Crows, and so I have to finish the original trilogy first. So it has been a few hours and I'm going to need some therapy. I didn't know what to do with myself as I was reading, and I was panic reading because I was cooking and making food as I read on my phone, which is why it took me 2 hours to make a soup, but we're going to look past it. This book is The Cruel Prince on steroids. So imagine the most unfavorable relationship, an R-rated Jude and Carden situation where they hate each other but you can feel a pull and attention and great chemistry, and this is what just occurred in this book. However, I was so thrown off by this plot twist. This has turned into the strangest sort of vampiric tale in a way. There's a lot of different and quite confusing beings in this world, and once you start finding out sort of the dark truths behind the curtain as to how this whole kingdom operates and what the characters' ulterior motives are, Jennifer Armentrout is so good at romance, but she proved in this book that she's also great at plotting. I've only read her Obsidian series, which was sci-fi. I also loved Poppy's development. She has sort of been trapped her whole life. She has been kept away from everyone. The only people who know her face are her guards and the lord and the lady in charge of where she lives, and that's a really difficult situation to be in, to not really have any contact with the outside world. But the way she develops and comes into her own and takes charge of her life was really empowering. I'm so glad I'm vlogging this because I feel as though this is a documentation of my downfall. Oh, this book did not stop throughout. There was genuinely plot twist after plot twist. We had action sequences throughout. We had a very good balance of the romance and the more serious aspects of the book, but that ending, I mean, I don't know what to do with myself. It was the craziest plot I think I've ever come across, because we're kind of reaching an ending where everything will fall into place and it's setting up the sequel very nicely, and then it's literally as though a bomb goes off and now I'm deceased. So today is an exciting time because 2 packages have come in the post, and the first is a book that I have been waiting for the last few days, and I've been so excited to receive a physical copy. That is A Song of Wraiths and Ruin. You all know by now that this is one of my favourite books of the year. I just had the most incredible time reading this very vengeful fantasy story. I did an entire makeup look for it. There's also a whole book talk on my channel. There's also an article on my blog, but I have not had a physical copy of it because I listened to it as an audiobook. So thank you so much to HarperCollins for sending this to me. Okay, we have snake green coloured. Look at this. Can I just... aesthetic. I know there's a map inside, so we're going to look at that as well. I love the detailing. Do you see? We're not going to do another review, I promise. I'm going to link all the things in the description if you'd like to learn more about this book. Now the second thing, I don't know what it is. It's genuinely a black box. Stuff is inside. I don't know who sent this to me, but it was addressed to That Fiction Life. So I'm assuming that it's something to do with books, and so I presume that it's a thing that I should probably open on camera. Ooh, yes! I know what this is. Oh my god. Okay, this book is so big. Guys. Oh. Okay, I'm so intimidated by the size of this book and the tiny font. So this is Christopher Paolini's latest book. Oh my god, what? This comes out in September of this year. This is number 166 of a limited edition of 180 proofs. I feel so important right now. Let's read the press release together. Greetings, friend, and welcome to the Fractalverse. This book took me over 7 years to write. It is the distillation of thousands upon thousands of hours of angst, effort, ambition, research, and ultimately joy. Which might make you wonder, why? Why would someone devote so much of their life to this particular story? Opening presents, it's terribly exciting. Stories are how we as a species explain the universe to ourselves. And also you love science fiction, and it's an epic space opera full of spaceships, lasers, aliens, explosions, and tentacles. Okay, so the first thing we have is a little magnet that says "To Sleep in a Sea of Stars," Christopher Paolini, and then the hashtag for the series. We then have a bookmark with the cover on the front. I'm going to need this bookmark to read this giant fat book because it's going to take 5 years. And finally we have a little candle that also says the title of the series. So we have "To Sleep in a Sea of Stars," lavender blossoms. Let's give it a smell. Yes, what is this? Oh, it's blue underneath. Oh, it has one of those wooden wicks. That's so cool. I love the blue underneath. Yes, you like it? I know, what is it? It's not food, Luna. Let me tell you a little bit about it because I'm just getting so sidetracked at freaking out. Luna, you're going to read with me. She's just falling asleep. She does not give a crap. Okay, so Kira dreamed of life on new worlds. Now she's awakened a nightmare. During a routine survey mission on an uncolonized planet, Kira finds an alien relic. At first she's delighted, but elation turns to terror when the ancient dust around her begins to move. As war erupts amongst the stars, Kira is launched into a galaxy-spanning odyssey of discovery and transformation. Looking at books here, this should be exciting for you. Luna's fallen asleep. So I'm very excited to finally announce that I have finished reading Siege and Storm. This book was nearly the end of me because as much as I still love these characters, and I said this in my Shadow and Bone video, I gave the book a low rating, but I loved it anyway. As I said earlier in the video, this book to me was the most predictable thing I've ever read. Like, genuinely everything that was being revealed, I just thought, oh, okay, great. You know, it was that kind of reaction, and I don't like that because I like to have these very intense, I want to burn the book kind of reaction. Where I got up to previously, I was very excited. I loved that we're finally seeing some action in this book. And then, you know, the last sort of 20 minutes that I had of the audiobook, I couldn't wait for it to end. I don't want to say predictable again, but I wasn't even moved by what happened. You should feel the need to move on to the next book, but I don't really care. Oh god, please don't come for me. This is... I'm having such a crisis. So I gave the book 2 stars, and I can honestly say that if Nikolaj hadn't been in this book, I would not have finished it, because there would be nothing for me to look forward to. I still love this world. This is what's really confusing to me. I love the existence of everything and all the details that we're learning, but just the plot itself has no surprises for me personally. Nikolaj is the best part of this book. I'm so glad I've met him. He's become one of my favourite book characters of all time. Now, the second book that I've finished is The Dawn Chorus by Samantha Shannon. I've never been so emotionally drained after a novella. Novellas usually are quite nice little snippets and learn things that aren't very crucial to the overall plot of a series. To me, this novella is absolutely essential. The details that we learned about Paige and Warden's relationship and about her mentality after what happened in the Song Rising was such a journey to go through. And I definitely have a different outlook on these characters, and it was also such a good refresher. Listen, the last book came out 3 years ago. I could not remember for the life of me, and this was sort of like a 90-page course on the Bone Season series, and I feel very ready to read The Mask Falling. My favourite thing about it, I think, was seeing Paige very vulnerable, because that's something we don't get to do in series because you have to move the plot along, whereas here you actually were able to spend time with her and process, I guess. There's also an article about this on my blog already, so if you would like more details about my thoughts on this whole series in general, I'll link that down below for you. So I have started another book, and it's an audiobook, and I am now listening to Last Tang Standing by Lauren Ho, and I needed this book. Let me give you a little zoom in. I am, as you can see, on chapter 7. So I've listened to nearly 3 hours of it, and before I get ahead of myself, let me tell you the plot. We are following Andrea Tang, who has had her whole life sort of set out by her family. She's on track to become partner at her law firm, and everything else seems to be fitting into place. However, her family is very pressuring on her to finally settle down and get married. She has a very vast family that are all very invested in what she does with her life. And I think I needed this book, because sometimes when I read YA, I've talked about this in a few videos, I just don't relate to these 16-year-olds having all of this drama, and I think this is why I don't like YA contemporary, because in fantasy you have those magical elements and you're focusing on wars and mysteries, whereas contemporaries generally do follow a lot of romantic plot lines and finding your first love, and I feel as though I've outgrown that a little bit, whereas here you genuinely have someone who is so much older. Since Midnight Sun is coming out next week, I am so excited. I thought I would finally reread Twilight, because I have been promising you guys a reading vlog for this for the longest time, and so I thought I would include it as part of this monthly reading vlog. So of course this is a reread. I was a huge Twilight fan back in the day, and it's going to be very nostalgic, I think, and no matter what anyone says about these books, they are so entertaining, and it was my first experience of being in a fandom. Are you going to be reading Midnight Sun? Let me know. I am for sure going to be reviewing it, because I can expect some real strong feelings about it. So I'm going to take an editing break. I'm going to read a little bit of the book. I know the writing isn't revolutionary or anything, but this is bloody easy to read, and I feel like I'm going to have a great time no matter what I think. So I have only read about 30 pages, but I'm honestly surprised. I thought I would be way more horrified. I'm finding it a little bit over-explained in situations, especially in the very first scene where Charlie gives Bella the car and they're having a full-on conversation about some very futile things. Also, I should mention, this part of the vlog will have spoilers in, but I figured enough people have read this for me to be discussing it in more detail. But I am of course going to put the timestamps in the chapters in the description so you can navigate through any parts you don't want to listen to. So I think I'm having a terrible realization in that maybe the films were bad, because that's what I remember the series as, because I'm a very visual person, so I can remember the film so much more. I haven't read the book in years and years, so I feel a little bit as though I'm reading it for the first time, and it's honestly so much fun. I am completely shocked at how witty Bella is. In the films, she looks a little bit like she's dead inside, and both Bella and Edward just didn't really have that much of a personality. And I think that I completely erased from my mind that that's not how they were in the books, because even Edward is so outgoing in this book to me. In the film, all he did was walk around brooding the whole time. I mean, for instance, they're having a conversation at the point where he saves her from the truck hitting her, and they're talking about how she doesn't want to go back to school. And Edward is going back and he says, "Someone has to spread the good news that we survived," he said smugly. And Bella's dry humour is everything. I don't want to keep comparing this to the film, but I can't believe the scene where Bella faints was not in it. It was such a funny scene, the way Mike is so jealous over Edward just picking her up after they both think she's passed out. I am genuinely more excited for Midnight Sun now, because I was a little bit skeptical. Do I actually need a book of 700 pages just about Edward's brooding and moody thoughts? Now, the writing we have to talk about a little bit. Some of the lines where Bella's describing him, at one point I think she calls his voice attractive. A voice isn't attractive. I mean, a voice can be attractive, but you need to describe it more, right? You don't just say he said this in his attractive, you know what I mean? Use metaphors if you have to, even if they're cliche, because I need to have a vision of what his voice sounds like. I feel as though the book itself is very overly descriptive. He has a lot of snappy sentences explaining things way too much, and I think a lot of it could be edited down, especially at the start. I'm also surprised at how fast paced this is. 70 pages in, we've already had so many Bella and Edward scenes. Everyone, we are making progress with the book. Edward has finally confirmed to Bella that he is a vampire, and surprisingly this is something I think the movie did better, because going up the mountain on a little hike talking about the fact that he's actually a vampire was so much more atmospheric. Even the colour grade of the blue tone really made it more of a mystical and mythical experience, rather than in the book where she just finds out at the dinner. I cackled at the cafeteria scene where she's asking him questions about being a vampire, and she asks if he can eat food, and he says, well, if you were asked to eat dirt you would, wouldn't you? And he eats a slice of pizza in the most passive aggressive way. I thought that was such a funny scene. We have to talk about how Bella completely disregarded the fact that he is a vampire though. She didn't really even react. She was kind of excited at the prospect, which I guess I would be too, so I'm not judging her too much. I am getting pretty far into the book now. I'm nearly at 300 pages, which means that we are at the ballet studio where James finally finds Bella because she went to meet him. I am determined to now sit down and read until I'm finished. So, what has occurred so far? We've met the Cullens properly. Bella has had an sort of almost audience with them, and we became a little bit acquainted with her future family. Bella and Edward have gone on a lot of dates. I love seeing this in-depth development. You know, the little mentions of how they spend lunch together every day, their hiking trips. But having said that, their relationship is still so fast, and I think it's because the book is not very long. I honestly think that we needed more in-depth development as to why they are so immensely in love with each other, because even the way they are discussing each other's feelings, it feels very, very fast. And so I think maybe if we had maybe 50 more pages, I would have understood. There's one thing that is really annoying me about him, and it's these very pointed lines that he says to her whenever he plans something for them to do. Oh, I decided we're going to do this, if that's okay with you. He always adds these sort of, only if you want to, but it sounds very much like, is he just being polite, but he's very set on doing the thing that he's decided. He's not being controlling per se, but it's just something that stuck out to me as I read that I didn't really notice the first time I read the book. I adore this scene with Emmett where they are catching up a plan as to how they're going to escape James. Bella comes up with this whole plan that she's going to go to Phoenix, and she has an answer to everything, and Emmett just says she's diabolical, and I am loving Bella's personality. She is very outgoing throughout. She's so sarcastic, and that is my favourite thing. We are finished with the book. I am honestly so surprised that I had a good time reading this. I really think this series gets a lot of unnecessary hate. The writing definitely is not as good. I thought it was okay towards the end. Past the first few chapters where it definitely over-explains everything and the sentences are too snappy and it's not as smooth as I would want a book to be. Once Bella and Edward start being a couple, it was kind of fun reading about their adventures and their lusts for each other turning into love, and it was just very entertaining. My favourite thing about this ending is that little plot twist of finding out that Alice is actually connected to James. She was the first person to escape his tracking, so to speak, and that he's the one that killed her maker, and all this time everyone just thought that she was abandoned when she was turned into a vampire. This series could have so much more depth if we focused on the side characters more, and this is a little bit why I'm excited for Midnight Sun, because I'm hoping for more Cullen content. I mean, each of the Cullens have such an interesting story. This series could have been truly quite a masterpiece if Stephanie had decided to give us more about the Cullens as opposed to just focusing on the love triangle. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm so glad I read the book. So as an ending to this vlog, I want to catch you up on Last Tang Standing. And this book is the messiest drama that I've ever read. Andrea is really going through it all. The way she's navigating her dating life at the moment is just so chaotic, and I think that reflects real life very well. She's meeting all these different people and she's having bad experiences, and we talk about her personal life a lot and her relationship with her mother particularly because she's pressuring her so much. I personally don't enjoy books that just focus on romantic drama. As I said earlier in the vlog, I am not a romance reader at all, so it's very hard for me to become very immersed, but that is just personal preference. It's such a subjective thing, but I'm enjoying this book so much nevertheless. I'm enjoying seeing Andrea open up to the people around her, especially in her work relationships, and she's more open to opportunities when they arise. Just find out exactly where I am. There we go, I'm on chapter 26. I mean, the law grad in me is really wishing for more content to do with her job, but of course that's not the point of the book. And in general, I feel as though there isn't really a plot. I'm not sure where it's heading at the moment. Yes, I'm only, how many hours am I in? I am nearly 7 hours into the book and it's kind of all over the place. I'm not sure what the end goal is, but I'm enjoying living through someone else's drama and kind of seeing the ups and downs of life. And also Andrea makes some questionable decisions and she's not the nicest person at times. And my favourite thing about it is learning about different culture and how different family traditions fit in, because the book is set in Singapore, and so we're learning so much about what her life is like there. So I'm not going to finish this book in this vlog. I don't want to rush through this book. I want to actually enjoy it. So you will definitely hear my closing thoughts at some point. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye!